It's only been 1 year that Kitco News has been on air, but we've already had some very big names join us on the show. From Ron Paul announcing he was planning a gold audit and it becoming national news, to Newt Ginrich and Jim Rogers, we decided to look back at some of these prominent figures and see the news they gave firsthand to Kitco News. The year started off strong for Kitco News, with Congressman Ron Paul telling us that he was planning to introduce a new bill next year that would allow for an audit of U.S. gold reserves.
I think it's a possibility, and if there was no question, you'd think they'd be very anxious to prove to us that the gold is there. But you'd think that I think there's only been one decent audit 50 years ago.
And then there was a little thing called the QE2 that came around this fall and really helped gold prices rally.
If I were Mr. Bernanke, and as I said before, I would resign, but in absence of doing that, I would probably rather disappoint the market initially to see how the markets react, because there are now more and more voices that are skeptical of monetization of assets in the United States.
But words of support for the Fed did not stop here.
Well, Chairman Bernanke, I think, is fundamentally misguided in his approach. The number one job of the Federal Reserve ought to be stable money. And if it's not producing stable money, it's going to produce inflation.
You have to get rid of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve, America's had 3 central banks in its history. The first 2 disappeared. This one's going to disappear too, between Mr. Greenspan and Mr. Bernanke. They keep making mistake after mistake after mistake.
I don't think the Federal Reserve should exist. The fact that it exists and will stay in existence for a while longer, it'd be best for Congress to exert their responsibility, and that is find out what they're doing.
And then there is the highly debated Form 1099 new reporting requirements that the precious metals industry will have to deal with.
There's a lot of industries that are opposed to these new reporting requirements that begin in January 2012. So we're going to be working with a lot of industries to get those new reporting requirements reversed.
I think it's going to be overturned. I mean, the idea that $600 as a threshold, most of them are going to just automatically require everybody to register and give their name and address and social security number. I mean, that is a bureaucratic nightmare.
At the end of the year, we saw China and more interest rate hikes coming.
I think interest rates are going to go up in baby steps, but more importantly, the Chinese are tightening the credit growth. For example, they've recently raised the bank's minimum requirements another 50 basis points, and this is the 5th tightening or hike this year alone.
China will definitely be a very important factor going forward in 2011, because obviously it has been a large player in the markets and the global economy this year as well. We're looking at the 2nd largest economy in the world. We're looking at a scenario where inflation rates have risen to uncomfortable levels, in fact, indeed unacceptable levels as far as the local government's concerned.
For the Chinese investor, where your holdings of cash are depreciating in the bank in terms of purchasing power, what you end up doing is you need to buy real assets.
On behalf of all of us at the Kitco News team, we'd like to wish you and your family a very happy holiday season. For Kitco News, I'm Daniela Cambone.